So I think so over the weekend we all split up and our groups went and did some analysis, including the demographics data. And I think the plan right now is to have each group kind of just say some stuff about what they found. So
Cool.
that we're not just reading through the docs. You could get some narrative on it, some commentary.
Cool. I'm ready.
I'm group one, so I can get us started. Okay, so for our methods, it's kind of really simple. We looked for chemical similarities within the top three groups so that we can identify like which ones are the most dangerous, pose the most danger to a lot of these workers. We also identified chemicals with the most emissions, also identifying similarities. And then we looked into toxin groups, so whether they're carcinogens or whether they cause developmental or reproductive problems for each group. And then we looked into the race and sex demographics. So you can kind of, I can't make this, can I make this smaller? But as you can see, we made like these pie charts with the chemicals, and you can kind of see that there are like a couple of them that really stand out. So the chemicals that showed up in all five job category groups, so like these job groups were like trichloroethylene, 1-bromo propane. I cannot read any of these properly. And
Doing
then
fine.
tetrachloroethylene. And tetrachloroethylene was consistently ranked number one or number two highest emitted toxins in each category, so that was really interesting. And then chemicals that show up in like 4 out of 5 job categories was diethanolamine. And then
Ooh, you did that the best of all of us.
3 out of 5 job categories was like N-methyl 2 whatever. Um, and then we looked at race and sex information. So kind of like unsurprisingly, like Hispanic and Latinos are like had the most workers in all occupations, and then white was like second highest. And then we have like how like the percentage out of like total workers in each occupation, and the numbers are just how the jobs are ranked. So that we didn't have to copy paste the job name every time.
Okay.
And then next to it is the majority sex and like the percentage of each majority sex. And then we kind of analyzing that, we found that what are the job categories? Construction, extraction occupations, production occupations, and farming, fishing, and forestry occupations are predominantly male, like job fields. Construction and extraction being extremely predominantly male, like 98% are male.
Wow.
And then production and farming, fishing, and forestry range about like 70-30, like male to female. And all of these jobs have trichloroethylene, 1-bromo propane, and tetrachloroethylene. So, and all of these cause like cancer, including diethanolamine. Also, these two chemicals give you like developmental and reproductive, specifically for like males as well. So we were like, maybe we can assume that like people in these job occupations, like the men, have a greater risk of like cancer and reproductive health.
Compared to men not in those jobs or compared to women in those jobs?
Compared to like men not at those jobs.
I think it's probably important in these findings to make sure you say who it's in relation to because there's a lot of
Okay.
different things that it could be in relation to.
Okay. I will.
So, yeah, I mean, not a huge deal, but I think something to just remember so you don't get confused too.
Okay. And then this is kind of more basic stuff like personal care and service occupations. There's like 75% is female. And like food prep and serving related occupations is like mostly 50-50, but
Hmm.
like generally more female, like a little bit in all races. Personal care and food prep both have like this chemical which causes like developmental problems, like farming, fishing, and forestry occupations. Like we just have a list of what like each job category is exposed to. And then we have like the highest emitted chemical per group, like per job, like job occupation group. So tetrachloroethylene was highest ranked for like 3 of these groups.
Yeah.
So definitely like, I mean, pretty danger chemical. And it causes cancer. And just like one other observation that we had is that like the top two, like construction and extraction and personal care and service, have like by far the most by far the most chemical exposure compared to other jobs. Because if you see on the,
Oh, yeah.
oh wait, this doesn't have total, but yeah, like this one is like 2.7, 1.9, but starting from production occupation, it just halves to 0.5. And yeah, that's
Cool.
bad.
Very, very interesting. See, I told you guys you were right there on the cusp.
So I have so can you show us how that visual presentation? So why you did it pie chart? And Dr. Nose, is there any other the better graphic or other way to show not only pie chart? What do you think?
I mean, we kind of had like it's just as like because you can kind of see like it just looks better than just numbers saying like something percent, I guess.
It's
Like,
definitely
for
better than
example,
numbers.
yeah. For example, like construction and extraction, you can definitely see that, oh, like methylene chloride is like this big.
Right. And I think that's the key with pie charts is that it's not the most efficient way to communicate numbers and quantitative data, but it is good if you want to really drive home like this is how many people or this is how much bigger this group is or how much it takes up. Like it's helpful for people to see it that way. And I think you're right that it's sort of more of a visual impact because it's got that. So I don't have a lot of suggestion, like maybe as you're working through it, you'll figure out another way to do it. But I think, did we talk about this before? I can't remember. It could be I was talking with somebody. I think I was talking actually with one of my summer interns about how with a product that's on the market that she should use a pie chart because then you can really, it makes the impact like, oh, this product is most used by these people. And it drives it home in a way that the numbers, like saying 79%, doesn't really have the same emotional impact that a pie chart with 79%. The only thing I would think that might have a similar effect if you wanted to show it like on one graph is you could think about doing a stacked chart. And you could do it where you could try both ways, like a stacked chart where it all is at 100%. So then, all of the things are at the top, or you could do it based on total if you wanted to show both the proportion and then the fact that these two jobs have way more exposure than these other jobs. So you could try that.
And yeah, I forgot to mention this earlier, but we also just have like supplemental graphs of numbers of people in each race, and then horizontal is like the job categories. So we have them for male and then female.
And so it sounds like, or it looks like in this data set that and this is the way it generally is, but like that it's race and then Hispanic or not Hispanic, right? Like it's like it's not, so you'd be, if it were one combined, and I don't think you can do this with the data you have, but if it were one combined group, it would be white Hispanic, black Hispanic, Native American Hispanic, like it would be that, right? Or it would be white, not Hispanic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you could also think about if you would want to present Hispanic as separate from race, just because it's collected separately and it won't add up to like if you added white, black, Asian, Native American, Pacific Islander, and Hispanic, you would get like 150%. You wouldn't get 100%. So you might think about that issue, and that is an issue that everyone has thought about since they introduced it as an ethnicity rather than a race. And it is there's not a great perfect solution for you since you can't. I think doing it like separately, like you have like white alone,
Yeah. These are
Asian
just
alone, exactly. Yeah,
race.
and
And
I think
this just
you can,
represents like, yeah, like
yeah,
total male, female.
right, and you can do total male female with Hispanic, not Hispanic, right? Yeah, so I think that's good, and just be careful, just like with your graphs and things, like when you bring in Hispanic, that it's not a situation where it was supposed to all add up to 100%.
And yeah, thank you, Joel,
Were
for
you
making.
surprised by anything? Any of you guys in
I
your
guess
group or you?
not particularly by like the like demographics information, but it was really interesting to see like having the chemicals really ranked out because we just chose like the top 5 highest rated chemicals per job occupation. And it was interesting. It was like, oh, they actually have like lots of similarities in between each other. That was interesting.
Cool.
And just like a quick thing on the Hispanics thing, it definitely drew me in for a thing, but like one of the, because I left out a few sub demographics, sub races, like mixed races, and there was also like a group that said white alone, not Hispanic or Latino, but didn't exist for any other race.
Hmm.
So I don't know how the ACS really does it, but yeah, like,
I think it's fine to leave it like you did, and leaving out mixed race is fine, probably because it was a really small percent.
well,
At this,
I wouldn't know. I didn't check.
oh, it probably was. So I
Okay.
think uh, that's fine. And yeah, it's a problem that people have been dealing with since they introduced that to the census. You're not unique, and everybody will know that if you're doing, it's like, so you just have to be careful not to misstate because people will know what it actually is. All right, cool. I'm a little surprised that construction is so male. I mean, I shouldn't be, but I still am. I mean, 98%. That's a lot.
I saw the graph for that. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like it was a skyscraper.
Yeah, and I'm not particularly surprised that Hispanic is more exposed than not Hispanic. Disappointing, but not surprising.
So yeah, those next so group 2, do you guys wanna share your findings? Oh, also I don't know how relevant this might be, but if as we're going through these, if you have like ideas for other groups that you wanna share it later, just keep it in mind. It's always welcome. It helps us not miss something.
So like on like our first day we started looking at like chemicals and like I heard like on the top 5 only 1,4-dichlorobenzene was the one with like that's only used in one group, but it still
Mm,
had like a high emission.
hmm
So like we started off looking at this one and the remaining 4 like separately. And then we also found out that this chemical also is only used in one group. So we started to look at those first, but we couldn't really find anything. And we thought that like maybe the no significant risk level was on like the Prop 65 website. So
hmm
we thought that maybe like after we get all those data from there, we could probably do something. But then there aren't much data for like all chemicals about
mm,
NSRL. So we were like, oh, maybe that's not the right way. We were like, how about we add or like average out those groups that uses this chemical. So like one for dichlorobenzene, like on the demographics that we only got the demographics from personal care and service occupations. For
makes
methylene
sense.
chloride, we got it from healthcare support occupation, like all those job
hmm
groups that uses methylene chloride.
hmm
We weren't too sure if we should average them or add them. So we did work on both, but then like we kind of realized that trichloroethylene and diethanol, I mean, show the same result because
Oh,
they're
yeah.
used among all those groups. So we were like, wait,
Ah.
that I guess it's not that valid anymore.
No, I
Like
mean, I think
they
it's
also,
still, it means that the demographics don't alter sort of that's not the way you would decide which one is the better or worse. You know, it can't help you within those two. But that's okay. It's okay that they have the exact same demographics.
Wait, how
And
do
I
you
would
get?
say for the
Sorry.
plus, oh, I was just going to try and answer do we add or average?
I can ask later.
With the adding versus averaging, what did you mean? Did you mean across? Yeah, what exactly? Can you say more about that? What your confusion was?
we weren't sure if like averaging those groups out will be a better way or adding them would be a better way.
Oh, adding.
Adding.
I mean, in a way, it's again, it's sort of like what's the research question you're asking, but I think that the research question we've been asking along supports adding. Averaging would be removing information, I guess, from what you've done. You know, like here you can add it up and you can say 7,422 people were Black and 704 people were white and 37 were Asian. Whereas if you took an average, it would say, you know, some average, you know, and then the other job has stuff like, you know, so you don't want to average because then it would make your information less specific. So in this case, you want to add. And you also want to know not how much the average number of total is, right? You want the actual total. So in this case, you'd want to add. I could see how you might use the average if you had a really different, like if you had a job in the same category that didn't have demographics, you might use the average, you know, of the overall category to assign it to a missing subcategory job, like something like that. But when you have the jobs that you're looking for and interested in, and you've got the demographics for those exact jobs, then you use those exact demographics because it's just better information. And then you add them up because that is more specific. So yeah, but good job on doing it both ways, just in case.
We decided to look into like top groups for like those chemicals,
Ah,
and then
okay.
like we also listed out like the top groups for like each chemicals, and there was like an overlap in production occupations in tetrachloroethylene and trichloroethylene. And like these were, and this like NSRL data was what we got from the Prop 65, and we learned that 1,4-dichlorobenzene and like p-dichlorobenzene were the same things, because on the website they one for when we search for 1,4-dichlorobenzene, this doesn't show up.
Okay.
And then we did like a breakdown for the races for the like the top job groups in those chemicals. The same thing for men and like women as well. And like that
Okay,
was
so
kind of it what we did.
this one is women, race, and so the number is the absolute number and the percent is on the side. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, but here you've got Hispanic and Latino in there, and so you'd want to this is the precise situation where you wouldn't want to put it in a stacked percent graph because there are white Hispanics and Black Hispanics and Asian Hispanics, and you don't have the data to pull those out. And so you'd want to remove the Hispanic Latino and have a second one that just showed Hispanics, not Hispanic, for each job category, which I think is the same thing that Group 1 did, right? Group 1, you had two separate graphs. And that again is an artifact of how the census asks that question. Instead of asking it in one question of are you Black, white, American Indian, Native Asian, Native Hawaiian, and Hispanic is just yes, no. But otherwise, that's fine. And I think you'll find that Hispanic women still make up the largest proportions for jobs for this and that. You just will have to say it in two steps. But it looks like, for example, for personal care, white alone will make up the majority, right? And then, but like in production occupations, the majority will be Asian alone. Is that what that one is? 53. Yeah. So your conclusions will change a tiny bit, but then you won't have that problem of mixing the two sets. Did you have a single chemical that was the overall most exposed, the most like highest number to the most people? Oh no, that might be group 3. I think I'll wait and see what group 3 has and then see where my question belongs. But that looks good. Group
Okay.
3?
Yep. Then we'll start group 3s. So our methods, this is the draft of methods. Our methods are more detailed or more clarified here. We basically did what group 2 did, but we made the weights using weight based off of frequency of chemicals. I now realize the weights were let's see, divided by the total frequency. So nothing fancy. We did average the weighted emissions across the different groups to get our top 5 chemicals. We did have we were kind of trying to figure out if doing an average or the total of the weighted emissions would work better, but we roll with the averages for now.
Yeah, I don't know. We'd have to think through that
Mm-hmm.
because there's so much averaging.
I
Okay,
mean,
well, let's go through what you
yeah.
did do, and then we can think if it seems to be,
Mhm.
if there seems to be a better way to do it, or if taking the total. You also could just do the total and then see if it makes a difference in the inference in the end. Like
No,
sometimes.
yeah, we did,
Okay.
and like
Oh, you
it
did.
changed the rankings of 2nd and 5th place.
Oh, okay.
So it was, we were like, it doesn't matter, we'll just move on.
Well, I think it again, like I said before, it matters which question you're answering.
Hard to parse through that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, we got our top 5 chemicals by looking at the average weighted emission.
Okay.
This we color coded this to
Okay.
show. This is hard to read. I could swap it back to white. So
Yeah.
red is our highest emissions and whatnot. So we could just read this as where's our highest emission? It was methylene chloride in construction.
Right, which was the
So
same, methylene chloride was the highest thing in
Mhm.
Meg's paper too, right?
yes, I believe so. It's just
Yeah. It's so
heavily
far
used.
outside the norm, yeah. Like the others are like at 0.0. They're in the hundredths and it's in the tenths, so
Mm-hmm. And this graph is the one I was referring to when I'm like at the skyscraper. So
yeah.
blue is methylene chloride, and whatnot. But yeah, we see the highest is methylene chloride with the emission of 0.278 in
So is that
construction.
nearly 5 times, like 4 times
Mm-hmm.
the next chemical?
Yep, and this is like even just per job, so yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Right, it's not even total, it's just per job. And it's recently had somebody made a new Pell, I think, right? I think there's something new about it. Like it'd be hard to relate it to this number, but
Mhm.
the fact that you're finding so many people are exposed, or that it's exposed, not so many people, but that it's in such a high amount, like is interesting, like what that impact will be if they have to reduce it. I mean, I think they do have to reduce it, so, okay. So it's the highest by far, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the Simone Biles of chemicals. Okay.
Yep, so this is just top 5 chemical wise. Just easier to read like this instead of that, but it's the same information. I
Yep.
basically just noted the highest bars, the top 5 highest bars here, or longest. So some just a quick notable things are again methylene chloride is construction extraction. It's but it like doesn't show up in other occupations, but that's
Yeah,
due to like where it's used. It's more like
yeah,
sealant industrial use, so it makes
right. And
sense.
it's likely that if you were taking like mid-range jobs, like skilled trade, that type of thing, that you'd get more use of that because maybe that's the type of job it's used in, and construction sort of touches on that, but you're not getting maybe some of the skilled factory workers that make things, or like boat builders or something that would have a lot of exposure. So yeah, I think that's
I was actually like, well, it just popped into my brain, as I try to speak. We could look further into construction and kind of see exactly which job it was that had such a high usage of methylene chloride.
That would be
So,
interesting for your discussion section, that you could comment that overall it was high, or even in your results, but also each individual job was high, or really it was this one job or something like that. It'd be good context.
is my comment there? Yes. Oh,
Yep.
yep. So that was for methylene chloride. We saw for this chemical, it's again, it's the one Sophia mentioned. It comes up once, as it does right here, and they're only for mothballs. So that's an interesting too. It's one of the highest emissions, but it's a singular product, which are mothballs. And the mothballs were one of the like really high, one of the big priorities that came up in Dr.
Interesting.
Schwarzman's paper.
Yeah, and mothballs have a mysterious, like people use them for all sorts of things, I think is the reality. I don't know if you guys know of people that use mothballs. Like, does anybody's parents use mothballs?
We used to have them in our closets.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, Daisy, you're muted. You used to use them?
Yeah, I'm still using it.
Well, and we also discovered that there are products, this is a little bit on the other side, but there are products that have the same things in them, but are being, like people also use products you wouldn't expect in some of these jobs. And like we found that people were using mothballs in an environmental study in a way that we as white middle to middle upper class people would have no clue about, which was that they were, I think, Mexican immigrants, and they would throw the mothballs down the sink to improve odor.
Oh,
It was like a folk remedy for bad smells in the bathroom. So like, and this happens like a lot. If you follow like FDA recalls, like you'll get them warning that like, do not use the face cream from India. It's filled with mercury. And you're like, oh, oops. But people are like buying it on the black market for whatever reason. Often bleaching, I think, can be done with some heavy metals that are bad, and so those get recalled. So like there are all these very culturally specific things that people use, right? Like if Korean care products are a little bit having their moment, so I can't say it's Korean products, but otherwise, like that, like you have your parents who might have their specific brand that is niche, and that's how you can end up with some of these weird
You know what, in Korea,
things.
in 60s, 70s, 80s, we used to put mothball in the bathroom.
Oh, you did too,
Yeah, a bathroom too. Not the sink underneath, but it's
but just
like a
in the
really
bathroom.
it's dual bathroom because the smell. It's
Right.
like a light up in the America that the white people that light up the candle in the bathroom. We put in the mothball.
That's so funny. And I bet that some people maybe lit the mothballs on fire. Probably not.
I never heard about that, but we put it in there. I remember clearly my house did too. Most of
I
them, a lot of household.
I had the very classic where my parents did not do either, but we had like the fan. The early exposure to proper ventilation. That was me. Um, Yeah, people do all sorts of things like this. So it's interesting. So the fact that it only shows, so anyway, that was a little bit of a sidebar about mothballs. But mothballs come up a lot, I think, because they're thought of as like a fairly benign thing because, oh yeah, we use them in the bathroom. It's like, no, actually, that doesn't mean that it was safe. So that's super interesting and also interesting in your weighting. So I will say, just interject here that averaging the number of people across your jobs that were exposed to a certain chemical, right? That's what you did at the very end.
no, we didn't average any demographics. We just averaged the weighted emissions.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the weighted emissions are weighted by demographics,
Nope, weighted by frequency of the chemical.
weighted by frequency of the chemical. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't do demographics at all,
We did do demographics.
but not in the calculation, just in the
No.
what does this mean
Mm-hmm.
for who? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was gonna say at some, like, because another way of thinking about taking an average is you can think about it as taking an average, a weighted average, but all the weights are the same. Like, so then like it's not like there's a normal average. It's just that you're taking an average where the weights are equal. And then if you
Mhm.
change those weights, you call it a weighted average. So that's just another way to think about that, I was going to say. And yeah, I think with just the emissions weighted by frequency, I don't know what you would, I don't think, I guess adding it would give you the ability to compare total across chemicals. And averaging, still you can compare across chemicals, but you're looking at the average, not the total. I mean, like kind of a dumb thing to say, but like if you'd wanted to benchmark and say, oh, people in these categories were exposed to more than blah, 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 you couldn't really say that in the averaging. But you could say on average, people in these jobs were exposed to blah, blah, blah. Okay.
I was
Sorry, it
thinking
took
we
me a
could
minute.
maybe. No, it's yeah,
What were you going
it's
to
a
say?
headache. I was hoping that we could go into the averages within the discussion. Gives us
Yeah,
something to talk about.
yeah, for sure. And I think like, how you decide to do the averages and the weighting has an impact on, like you said, like if you did it the other way, you can also say if you want, like in a sensitivity analysis, we looked at how using the total emissions rather than the average emissions impacted the order, and it changed the order. And then that's it. You don't have to say like, you don't have to go through all of the assumptions about what happened when you change the order or anything like that. You just say that it changed the order and the reader can be like, oh, okay. So if they did it that other way, then it would have changed the order. And they can think about it. And the only thing that could happen if you were putting it in for publication would be that somebody might say, I think it would be better if you did it for total. And so why don't you carry that through and put the average as the sensitivity analysis? But unless you can see a reason for one of them to be definitely better than the other one, which at the moment there's too much to internalize and think about which one might be better. But if you come to think one of them is better, you should put that as the main analysis and the other as the sensitivity. But I think in this case, I can't quite come up with an immediate reason what the difference is, except for one is total and the other is average. And I'm not sure it matters which is which the way you're doing it.
Mothballs, right? And then we tetrachloroethylene had like it was consistently high emissions across most occupation groups, so it's the yellow. They're roughly the same. It just it's significantly lower in production occupation. Um, Similar with diethanolamine,
Mhm.
but it's more for food prep and serving, so that's the green. They're really tiny, but yep. And
Okay.
trichloroethylene was just really seen in this is the orange or red. It's really seen less, but more in personal care and production occupations than anything else. And we just looked at the toxicity type, toxicant type. So we paraphrase them: C for carcinogen, D for developmental, and R for reproductive. But
Mhm.
out of them all, they were all carcinogens. It's just trichloroethylene was almost everything but reproductive female. And then we went to look into demographics, and we did do the same thing. We did
Okay.
not separate Hispanic or
That's
Latino.
okay. Easy to fix.
Very easy fix, thankfully.
Yeah. And you can see just because you guys printed the numbers, you can see what the biggest groups are and that the construction and extraction occupations are mostly white and
Yep.
production is split, it looks like.
hmm
It's sort
There
of
was a
half white and
surprising.
half non-white.
hmm Oh yeah, that is another way to look at that.
Yeah. What were you going to say is surprising?
Oh, surprisingly, greater numbers for Asians than I thought.
Hmm. I think, and what are production occupations like? Is that like meat packers and stuff like that?
Production, it was fabrication in the sense of production.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with the Asian demographic group, as I'm sure I don't have to tell you guys, but is that it's treated like it's a monolith, and I don't even know who it's supposed to be. I'm not sure what Asian group would dominate it, but you get a lot of different. Like I remember in the chicken visits, there was one place where they had a whole bunch of workers that were on a special immigration program from Vietnam, and then another one where they were all from Thailand. And like it's just like those both groups would be lumped as Asian, and so would from the Philippines, and so would China, and so would Korea. And so it's just like, and there are very different demographics within Asian, just like there are within Hispanic or white. Like it's really different to be from Vietnam than it is to be from South Korea from an economic standpoint, and the Philippines especially. And you see a different breakout of like what jobs people are in. And so like if you see a lot of jobs in agricultural workers, that's primarily Filipino workers, but that's Asian. And so, and then also in Asian, I think, is South Asian, which makes it even, which is even more confusing. So textile winding, twisting, and drawing out machine setters, is that the, those are
Yep, no, this
funky.
was
That's all of it. Sewing machine operators. Right, so then you're looking at who's working in sweatshops. And that's a lot of Asian women in LA. And I can't remember, you took California
yep,
or national? California, yeah.
just
So
Cali.
lots of sweatshops in LA. Our dean of the School of Public Health is Taiwanese, and when they came over from Taiwan, when he was a kid, his mom worked in a sweatshop in LA. That's less surprising to me than it could be. But it's also like some of the, there's a lot of immigrants right now in California from China, and they aren't all like the ones you hear about as being the new billionaires. A lot of them are very poor and taking the low-income jobs. So I'm not surprised they're showing up in your data, since that was the group you were going for. I'm a little more surprised to see so many white people in food prep and serving related, but I guess there's no way to, I mean, it's like over 2/3, but I guess you could make the assumption that a lot of them are white Hispanic, since 500, yeah, 500. And so fully half of the people working in food service prep or food service or prep are Hispanic. And so you figure if you just took that as an average, then the white, half of the white people would be Hispanic, and that would be the largest group. Because there's 312, so half of 312 is like that 158. And I don't know if Filipino people, when they fill out the census, if they mark Asian, if they mark Pacific Islander, or if they mark Hispanic. I bet it's a total mix.
Yeah, I feel like it'll be pretty varied.
Right, it would depend on how you feel about
Yeah.
it. Like if your parent was from, you know, a clear background that you spoke Spanish and stuff, then maybe you would. And if they, who knows? Okay.
And then, yeah, we broke it down for male.
Okay, same problem, but so it's the same, yeah, construction, very male.
And female. It's roughly the same, but there are definitely
Yeah, there are
less
differences.
female than male in production occupations too. Now that talking about sweatshops, but
Right. And you could do a split male-female graph, just like a plain one without race. If you wanted, I mean, like you don't have to present it, but you could have it to get, or just look at the percentages and present that in your text. Yeah.
yep.
I am
And then
surprised that not many African American portion there. All
In
across that,
construction,
yeah, all across the 10% job, it's very little portion of African American there, right?
I mean, what's the proportion of African Americans in the workforce period in California? I think it's pretty low.
Yeah, so that I
Yeah.
was very surprised.
Well, okay, well maybe
Yeah.
this is just construction.
That's construction, but still, like I think that the total percentage of African American, Black African American in California is like 10%.
Oh wow.
I think it's much lower than the Northeast part of the US, and certainly the South.
That is pretty low
Yeah.
compared to,
Yeah.
because this is, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's low. It is low.
So when we decide, when we write down California characteristic of a whole population, should we write it down about that idea for the readers?
Yeah, I mean, you could say like you could give like the California civilian overall population. So this is one comparison you can make is does the do the distributions of your jobs, the lowest paying jobs, reflect the distribution in California? So you could have one bar graph like when you have the by job, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And
let's see,
the rate.
how would you do this? Will you scroll up a little bit, Jen?
Mhm.
Just so I can look at the stack graph and think about it. So, right, you could have like these four, and then on the left, the first one would be like total California working population. So like that top line in the, and that would show you very clearly whether where the deviations were, and you'd be able to say, I mean, you can say this by see this by looking at it too, but like then the reader can see really quickly like, oh wow, like the white population is like 70%, but in these lower paying jobs like the white population is only 50% or whatever. Or you might be, or the other way, right? Or it might be like this particular job like construction, there are way more white people in construction than the proportion of the state is of white people. So like something like that, and like you can see sort of what happens. And I think it could be interesting. But yeah, you could try adding that as a total workforce on the left. Like just another column just to try it out, see if it works. And that's a way to compare, right? I mean, like if you,
Yeah.
and there are many different reasons for that. Like if you see, and you'd have to like, some of the reasons could be that aren't necessarily related to structural racism, which I think is the easy, probably most, biggest driving force. But you also might see, for example, and we don't have this data, but like if you had age, you might see that these jobs tend to be entry level jobs, and that then you could go and look at the age distribution of the population in California and find that like in people who are aged 20 to 25 who aren't in college are more likely to be this particular, and that all has like other components to it, but like it's a complex picture of how the races, it's either very complex or very simple how the racial distribution ends up in these sort of jobs. And so I think sort of acknowledging that in your discussion, maybe like if they look really different, and I think they will look different than the full working population, then you could comment on it, you know.
Mhm.
And I think that some of these things are important to note because younger workers or workers who are primarily immigrants, workers who are first generation, and simply just workers who are not white men are going to have less of a voice. And like if they're exposed to toxic chemicals, they're not going to be speaking up. And this is a serious concern right now with ICE being so threatening and disruptive, is that worker health and worker exposures have really gotten worse since the ICE raids started, because nobody's going to call up and complain about their workplace now, and it makes everything harder. So I think that it's a good thing to recognize who it is that's exposed and what the particular challenges of them having a safer working environment, what the particular challenges are. Like, will they speak up for themselves? Maybe, maybe not. Like, lots of different drivers. So it sort of gets you thinking on the next level of like, well, what do we do? Okay,
And the
cool.
other,
Yep.
the other thinking I do have, it's a very far-fetched idea, but all this health outcome is cancer, all related with the cancer, right? One is like a developmental or reproduction kind of things, but all of them is really, really frequency, and the major admission is all that cost to the cancer. So I checked, of course, it's Dr. Sadie's, that all the leading costs, number one is like a 22-25% is what is that, heart failure, heart disease, and the second 90 to 22 is the cancer. That is all across the United States and also California too. So
Yeah.
do you think it's like all of this kind of chemical? Of course, this is very, I don't know, we cannot really define how much percent the cost of this to the cancer deaths, or the cost of a cancer. But do we kind of mention briefly these are all the toxins really related to cancer, and that our leading, or California is number two of a cancer that's
Yeah,
cause?
I think you can. I think that that's something I'm not sure if that would be discussion or introduction, but it's
Mhm.
why it matters, right? I mean, is that these chemicals are carcinogenic, and you could even mention that, that's why you're motivated to look at it in the introduction, and then in the discussion and conclusion, it's like, well, these are important exposures because they're carcinogen, and you can see that all these people are exposed to it, and so you could even make a case that they're being exposed if they're young, it's early, and if it's an entry level type job, then it's something that they're going to get more exposure over their lifetime. It's not like some short exposure, like it might be a long exposure because they have a long working life. And I mean, the problem with all these is that a lot, like especially in construction, it can be really hard to track workers. Like if they just work with one crew and then they leave and they go to another job, like it's hard to know how much exposure they've had to something. And so if some of them get cancer, it's really hard to know, like even if you really like had all the money in the world to do all of the research, like how to figure out what their exposure was, like, and what was it that did it, and how do you do that retroactive exposure assessment? And so I think driving home, like lots of people are exposed and there are these jobs that don't have tracking, aren't, being reported, aren't people that likely are feeling empowered to go and report exposures or complain. Like it's important. So I think, yeah, you mention it. You don't have to like belabor it, but you can mention it.
How about can we, before I mention, can we go through that fatal or non-fatal injury for all
Yeah.
this lower top, and then it just only this occupation related with this occupational the fatal or non-fatal cause, and then check that out if it is like a cancer and all that. That is more kind of relative, rational.
Yeah, you can look at that. I think that with the carcinogens, you're not gonna capture cancer because it's just the wrong the latency period for cancer is so long. And so you could look at it. I mean, it might work. It'd be tough though, because you don't generally get cancer while you're still working.
Mm,
It's after you've retired.
yeah,
Um,
you're right. Mm,
or if you work in construction for a long time and then you switch to being like a manager in the office of the construction,
right.
then that won't be reported in the job we're looking at. So it's rare for them to be because these are hopefully entry level jobs. Even though they're low paying and they're in low paying sectors, we also hope that they're not the job that people work in their whole lives. We know they are for some people, but for a lot of people they aren't. And so it's hard to know what to make of that. And I don't think you'd see very much cancer in it.
Mm, yeah, right.
So I should go in a minute at 5:30, but what's the next step then? You guys have this a couple of things to fix with the Hispanic Latino breakout.
Mhm.
And that may give you a few different insights, and then adding the California workplace or California total demographics may give you some more insights also.
I was thinking we could also maybe go further into being like, oh, among the males only, like
Mm-hmm.
there are more products, say like for construction here, like we were looking at it, like even out of the males, like 28% of the males in this occupation are white. So
Yeah.
there are like other ways to sparse through this data,
Mm-hmm. Totally.
but
There's lots of ways. And
also,
you can condense to just men if you want. Like that's often done in these occupational type of studies when it's predominantly men, because then you remove sort of a mixed picture.
mhm.
Like if it's 20% or less of women, then sometimes people just like talk about men, total and men.
And also, I'd like to see that more comprehensive graph or visual presentation of all through groups results. I don't know how. I don't have any idea. But if we just talk more and we can have all combined, presented one or two, it's very, how can it effectively show then more impactful than what all three groups will be are doing. What do you think?
I think it's a great goal.
Right. I don't know if it's reachable or
I don't know. There's so much data here. I think you guys are. are should think about it. And as you pull up these new ones, like think of like if you were only going to present 3 of your graphs, which 3 would they be? And then maybe you could see if those 3 can be combined, because that would mean that they would have the most information. I don't know. Like I think you just have to sort of play with it.
Right.
Yeah, I was also thinking maybe as we're presenting, I'll be like other groups notice, hey, we had that information, or that's very similar to ours, and then we could just
Right.
combine those together.
Totally. And
But
that may happen.
yeah, and we'll see after. Yeah, so going forward, we gotta parse out the Hispanics, and we definitely want to compare to just flat CA demographics. So broaden that a little, and we'll compare it for everyone and see like which ones are notable. And I can't find age data. I've been trying. Whenever I've tried, it's really hard. I think non-fatal, it's we don't have the time to make it work, especially given the latency period I was also concerned about. So I think our best bet is just diving deeper into demographics and maybe trying to find something there in a different angle.
Great.
Okay. That sounds great. And Daisy, you'll just let me know.
Sure. Okay. I will let you know. I will let you go too. Thank you so
Okay.
much, Dr.
Great
Nas.
work.
So yeah, so we're gonna have another Dr. Nas because we have to produce like what we did today. So we have to go ahead. I know several people are traveling, several people are go back to school. It's okay because even the group and then out of 3 that you can do 2 or you can be even 1 or you can be only leaders meet whoever available. We're gonna just produce more, and then you have some idea. I have some idea too. So is anybody have more or a different idea you guys wants to present or you guys wants to share? Yeah, as you all heard, my idea is that it's really cancer is all across the United States and number 2. So I just look at it all the related with toxins, the health outcome is all cancer. I think it's one of biggest, I don't know biggest or smallest, but it is definitely compound the cause. So I would like to mention in introduction or at the end or whatever. If
I
we find
think definitely in the introduction we could mention that. And maybe we could even like look further into it and be like among these cancer patients or people with
right,
cancer, they tend to be, I don't know, maybe we'll find they're predominantly white males, which would make a bit of sense, kind of,
right.
even though there's a latency. I don't know, but we'll figure it out. But
Yeah,
definitely
that's the
it's
one thing.
interesting.
Yeah, let's do that one. And then the other one is the age that I asked before about age because it will be very interesting. The who will be most, that identify the targeting group or most exposed group. That will be age and group will be very interesting. And what else? Do you have any idea?
No, but that's the thing with even with age, like you can't find the data. Like
Yeah. Let's put all the inquiry, further inquiry, and then we're gonna just delve into it. Any idea? Because this kind of research, you have to put that idea. It's okay to
mm,
praise the idea. If
I
we cannot
think
find it, throw away.
I think Dr. Noth also mentioned before something called median lethal dose. It's
Mm,
similar to what Sophia's group was looking at with the not safe, the NSRLs.
mm,
But so median lethal dose is like a standard measure of acute toxicity, representing basically how how much concentration of that chemical is needed to kill a
right.
certain population. It might be a
Potent,
little
right,
extreme here, but
right.
maybe we could look into that.
Yeah, that's good too.
Again, I think it's really worth noting, like especially for construction and some of the jobs, we can delve deeper into the groups for discussion. So that's that.
Yeah, and also the comparison because, for example, construction is that main male dominated, but it's not important to compare female and male, but it's important to compare the outside of job or the construction. So that kind of a reference point or common denominator that we would like to do kind of have a common, it's like a all together combined one that is a graph will be compared to what is the important thing. So every graph or every presentation, the graph, what is a visual presentation is kind of cohesive.
Mm-hmm.
That's important too.
I think we can talk, yeah, that's also important, and we can
Right.
talk about it more once we have some like,
Han, can you write it all down if it's something that we didn't write it down at the end? Is there anybody wants to add? Once we finished all of a little bit further, like a cross analysis, we're gonna start to write. That will be fun part. So this week we're gonna just finish all that this week.
I think what would help for meeting tomorrow, if we can't meet, I don't know. But I think next step right now would be one to like take the Hispanics out.
Mm,
Two would be everyone. Well, I guess one person could do this, but I don't know. But basically, we need to have like data on the just percentages, California wise, no industries, nothing, just straight California. So we can
mhm.
use that as a comparison basis, which allows us to make more graphs. So we can do that also while we're making edits regarding Hispanics for tomorrow. So those are two definite things. Oh, then three. So similar, I know we made our graphs and everything, but if we can have like a few sentences or bullet points or however, just explaining the why this graph was made to like show what,
Right.
that would
Mhm.
be really helpful, especially when we come to a later stage where we're trying to combine some things or maybe make just note similar trends here and there. It'll be helpful for that later on.
Right. Okay.
And I
Great.
think that's it for now. Those are the
Yeah.
big
Okay.
ones.
Okay.
And I don't know. I don't know because it sounds like people are getting busy. So I don't know if it's like sensible to ask them to have that done by tomorrow. We can maybe work on it during tomorrow's meeting. I'm not sure. Do you
So,
guys want to like meet tomorrow at 7 and we're
yeah,
gonna go into our breakout rooms and work on this, or be like over the weekend where you guys meet sometime tomorrow and Wednesday before our meeting Wednesday?
okay, then let's meet tomorrow in the breakout room. What do you think? Because they cannot come on Wednesday, so let's have a tomorrow. We would like to just maximize our meeting time then. Everybody okay?
Yeah, that works for me.
Yeah, so we'll see. I will see you at 7 o'clock tomorrow. If you guys have some time, like Ryan, so please just go and then find the data sets that what we can do. Okay, great.